Oh, sorry about that. Careful. I'll try and get you in a couple of Toronto condominium poses. Hold on.
I'm Foad H.P. We have Aparna Nancharla here.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Aparna.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. This is your second trip to Toronto,
That's right.
and you have shows. You've done 2 shows, or no, 4 shows, right?
4 shows.
4
One
shows.
to go.
1 to go, and
Yeah.
then you're back to New York. Well, glad to have you here in Toronto.
Yeah,
I saw the
thank
show
you.
on Friday. It was really good. Really
Oh,
enjoyed
thanks.
it. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Aparna, I know you started doing stand-up in 2006, so almost 10 years. What would you say is the most important thing you've learned as far as stand-up comedy goes, or just comedy in general?
Wow, that's a deep question. I feel like one of the things that I have learned constantly is that it's a process that you're always evolving and you're always changing as a writer and a performer. Like your confidence improves with experiences both good and bad. And then as a writer, you sort of are like go through different phases of what you want to talk about or what's interesting to you. So I think in that sense, your feelings towards it are constantly evolving, I guess, like any art form. So it's definitely like year 1 looks very different from year 9.
Oh, I should hope so, right?
Yeah, I mean that is what you'd hope, but in a way where you don't always realize how much your attitude might shift, like towards the audience or towards an aspect of your own persona.
No, that's very
Yeah.
true. That's very true. When I first started, I would blame the audience for any of my failures instead of kind of reflect.
Yeah.
It was just the audience. They didn't get my jokes, and so
Sure.
like, maybe I could have worded it better or like gotten to the punch faster.
Yeah.
Okay. And you started out in Washington, D.C. Obviously, everyone knows about Dave Chappelle. To a lesser extent, people know about Tony Woods. Is there anyone from Washington, D.C. that did that scene that you really enjoyed, that really inspired you, maybe helped mentor you get to where you are today?
I feel like a lot of people I've come up with have gone on to really great things. Like Rory Scovel came out of that scene, and like Seton Smith, and they're both doing great. And then to a lesser degree, there are people who started in DC who like went to college there, who didn't really start stand up there, but they're also from that. Like they went to Georgetown or American. Like T.J. Miller went to American. George Washington University, and then John Mulaney and Nick Kroll went to Georgetown.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
So
Jim Gaffigan went there. So it's like weird. Yeah, Mike Birbiglia. It's really weird. There's like a lot of people who are kind of from there who are also people I look up to. So yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. I had no idea. Any
Yeah.
of those people who were from that area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, how are you guys? Sunday night, 7 o'clock. Let's get turned. No, I would never ask you to get turned. We don't know each other that well yet. But we will. How are you guys? How's everyone's weekend going? Yeah, cool. I feel like we should get right into things. Oh, good, my fans are here. It is. There's not a lot of time left here on Earth. It's good to get to the point. I was thinking about this the other day. Don't you guys hate when? That's all I have for that one. I feel like I'm hitting on some truths. No, this is something I do hate. I hate when you're going in for the handshake, but the other person is going in for the fist bump. But then you realize you're in front of a mirror and you don't know who you are anymore. I hate that. One of my pet peeves. I've had such a good time here in Toronto. My phone has been in airplane mode for the last 3 days, and I feel great. Like, I just feel like I don't exist. Like, no one can contact me. And I feel so happy about it. Like, the one thing that was tricky is I've been walking around the city, and I realized that
I know this about myself. I have a terrible sense of direction, like probably one of the worst. Like usually, like Google Maps just gives up on me halfway through. It's just like, I don't get paid enough, you know? Like you can't make 2 U-turns. It doesn't make sense. So I've been like going a little rogue, walking around the city, but I don't know. Like I realize that my sense of direction is so bad that I think if a private investigator were hired to follow me, eventually they'd just be like, do you want a ride? Because we both know you're not going to make it to the drop-off. You never do. You usually just cut your losses and go to Subway. In that scenario, I'm a small arms dealer with a weakness for footlongs. Little wink at the end.
I know you have an improv background, right? Like you started originally with improv.
I started stand-up, and then actually on Rory's suggestion, because he was like, he was, I think, did improv and stand-up at the same time, and he would always encourage like stand-ups to take an improv class. So I think I started improv classes like 6 months after I started stand-up, and then like enjoyed doing it, so just kept like doing it and started performing that too in DC.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've lived both in LA and New York. Did you were involved with UCB while you were there? Well, either of those places?
Yeah, I started UCB classes in New York. Like I spent a summer there before I moved to LA, and then I continued them in LA. So I went through like their improv training program, and like I think I also took like a sketch class and like an elective too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And while you were in LA, did you do any work with the Groundlings as well, or just UCB?
Yeah, I also took classes with Groundlings. Like I did, I think their first 2 levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it just the classes you took, or were you part of their company?
Oh, they're like pretty structured in terms of like you have to move through all the classes to like
Before
start
you can
performing.
I
Yeah.
got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know your mother originally enrolled you in public speaking classes because you were shy as a child, right?
Yeah.
How much do you feel that kind of molded who you are?
I think that actually helped me figure out that stand-up would be a fit for me really well, because I realized that even though I was a shy person, like when you're public speaking, you're kind of in a role where you're in front of an audience, but you're very much more in control of like what you're saying and like reaction. So I think I was like, oh, like it's actually easier for me to talk to people when I'm like have a microphone than just like, you know, at a party or something. Like that felt more comfortable to me, so I feel like that was my first inkling that stand-up might be something I would like to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think if you didn't take that public speaking class, you wouldn't have ended up in stand-up? Or do you think it's something you would have fallen into eventually? It's just that kind of helped accelerate the process a little bit.
Yeah, I think it definitely did. Like, I honestly don't know if I would be doing it if I hadn't taken that class.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know Gianni, our producer, wanted me to ask you, because show business can be a pretty tough industry. Like most industries, like nothing's easy.
Right.
But I guess show business, because it looks so glamorous on the end product looks very glamorous, so everyone just sees that and they're like, oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we have to deal with a lot of rejection and stuff. But let's focus on the good aspect of that. Is there anyone in show business that was like particularly kind to you that you like you'll never forget the help they gave you, or does that not happen?
No, I feel like I constantly am like pleasantly surprised that there are a lot of comedians I look up to are really nice and like have been very encouraging. Like a lot of people I've opened for have always been like very receptive and like will answer questions, and you know, even though a lot of them have very busy schedules, so it's like whatever they can spare is always like really generous. But like a couple of people that I really look up to are like Maria Bamford and like Paul F. Tompkins, Eugene Merman, and they've all been like really nice when I've worked with them and very encouraging. So I think that for me has set an example myself, like now that I'm just venturing into that thing where other people open for me on the road, like I want them to have as good an experience as I do.
Right, you want to pay it
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you said in another interview that young comedians should figure out if stand-up comedy is for them.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly do you mean by that? Like, do you?
I think I'm not sure what I was saying that in response to, but I mean, I think I meant that like the only way to know if you like stand up is to do it.
Right.
Like sometimes people will come up to me and they'll be like, I want to do this, but I don't know like how to get started. And it really is one of those things where you just have to try it, and that's the only way you'll know if you like it or if it feels right at all. And you know, I would say not even just once, like maybe a couple times, unless the first time is just so scarring that you're like, no. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if it's like an open mic or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And open mics can be brutal, so that's why I'm like, maybe best of 5.
Yeah, give it some time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've traveled more for comedy, but like I'm based in New York, and I don't work during the day. Like while I'm there, I'm mainly just doing shows, and like I feel kind of bad because when you're your own, like when you schedule your own day, it gets kind of weird. Like the closest thing I have to a boss right now is Netflix. When it's like, are you still watching? I'm like, of course I'm still watching. I'm never not watching. Stop micromanaging me. I'm your best employee. I take all your suggestions. You're really good. But I don't know, some days I'm just like, did I do anything today? Like, I was trying, the other day I could only come up with 2 actions for the entire day. One, I fell in the shower. I know, but it was like a new experience. It felt like growth, you know, or at least a blog entry. And then 2, I Shazammed the music in a pet food commercial. Like successfully, I got a result, you know, so it counts. But that was all I did the entire day. Like, I feel like if I had died that day and someone was just like, well, you know, what'd she do before she left? I'd be like, well, it was a little bit like she was already gone. She was ready. Sometimes when people pass away, it's like, oh, you read their obituary. I do that for fun. And it's just like, Cheryl had such a lust for life. Like, it's not fair she was taken from us. I feel like if I died, people would be like, well, she liked life, just not in that way. Like she just wanted to be friends. She friend-zoned life. She really valued the friendship. I have goals. I'm fine. It's fine. But I'm a huge waster of time. I love to procrastinate. Any professional procrastinators in the audience? Oh wow! That was powerful. But it's like, don't even make noise. You know, just think about it.
I know you, like you said, you moved to New York to write for Totally Biased with W. Kamau Bell.
Yep.
Congrats on that.
Thanks.
Was that your first TV writing job?
First writing job, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. How did you find the writing room? Like, was that a big shock for you, or did you kind of like settle in quickly?
I think like I had an idea of like how writing rooms work just from like reading interviews or like listening to podcasts, but it is like different when you're in it because it is almost like an open mic of sorts in that people are like pitching ideas, and it's like if something hits, people will laugh. If it doesn't hit, it'll kind of feel awkward for a second. But that writing room, and I don't have a basis of comparison since it was my first one, but it was like very encouraging. Like the show was keen on like bringing to light points of view that you didn't see on TV before, and sort of covering more diverse topics and diverse people. So in that sense, they were very open and receptive to new ideas. So I think that made it a little bit maybe less of a harsh writing room than others might be. But again, I don't know since I'm not, like I haven't been in other ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And the show originally started as a weekly show, but
Yeah.
then it moved on to a daily show,
Yeah.
right? Do you feel that dipped or caused the quality of the writing to dip because I guess the pressure would be much higher to kind of have a higher turnover rate for the jokes as opposed to
Yeah, I think a weekly show versus a daily show, there's just a different rhythm and structure to it. And I think we had been weekly for probably like a year, I guess. So we are just like starting to figure that out, and then to be sort of given a wrench and told, oh, well, now it's 4 times the amount of writing and quicker of a production schedule. Like, I think that just became like a bigger hurdle than we expected, and then I think it just became harder to delegate responsibility and like figure it out as quickly, since we didn't have a lot of time to figure it out.
How many writers were there?
I think when we were daily it was like 10, and when it was weekly it was like 8.
Okay,
Yeah.
so not like a huge increase
Yeah.
in writers. Okay. Do you have like any shows you plan on writing for, or are you writing anything right now that you would like to pitch and see on TV at some point?
I mean, I think my next goal that I would love to write for is like a sitcom. Like, I think a story-driven show would be really interesting, and probably like a different muscle than writing for like a more newsy, topical show. I just finished a pilot script, but it's more like a sample than, like, I don't know if I would want this one made, but
Right.
I think maybe in the future I might write something to try to pitch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Humming single ladies, being like, yeah, we're all doing it. We're all owning it. Looking good. But you're like pointing at loose piles of garbage. You get a haircut? Sure. Oh, God. The prophecy is complete. Or someone Jewish just got married? I don't know. No, I don't know. And then, after that, I moved into the rage phase, where I just wanted to Red Rover through couples holding hands. We've all been there. Not even couples outside, like couples sitting in their homes. Just be like, why don't I have what you do? I'm fun. So I was like, you should do something. You should try to meet someone. But as you can tell, I don't have a lot of game. Like, if I walk into a bar, the main vibe I'm putting out there is kind of like, are you my mother? That is my gift to the universe, and I own it. But it's hard to meet guys. So I was like, I'll try the online thing, you know. That's worked for no one. I have a good shot. So I got on the internet, joined that website, OkCupid. You guys have heard of it. I wasn't brave enough for Tinder, and I put up a profile. So far it's going. I don't know how to judge it, so I wanted to share a couple messages I've gotten on the site. I feel like it would be cruel to withhold this information, and if you're in a relationship right now, you can be like, oh, better get out, market's hot.
I saw a clip with Hannibal Buress, and he said that if you do a joke on stage and it fails, you've already lost the audience. So at this point, you can either just accept that failure, or you can say something else, anything else, and either it works and you have them back, or it doesn't work and you're still where you started.
Yeah.
Which I think is amazing advice. I've tried to really incorporate that into my stand-up. Do you have any sort of advice like that would kind of really shifts the whole joke telling paradigm?
Yeah, do you mean like he was saying that like each joke the audience rests on each joke?
No, I think he was saying more so like if you thought something would be the punch and then you say it and it doesn't work,
right.
Instead of just letting it fall flat, just say something else, and then if it does work, great. If it doesn't work, you're already at that failure, so it doesn't matter
right,
anymore.
like you're not losing
anything. You're not risking anything at this point. You've already risked and you've lost, so if you say something else, you either win them back or you don't, but at least you tried instead of just letting it kind of collapse on its own.
Right. Yeah, I think I think something I'm always learning on stage is like the way you see your act is so different from how the audience sees it because you're dealing with it day in, day out, like night after night. So you're more hyper aware of every word, every inflection, like your pacing, your tone, and they're not maybe looking at it to that degree. So like I will sometimes, like if a joke doesn't work, I'll be like, oh well, now I have to get them back. But it's like they're kind of looking at it as the whole thing, and they're not like, it's not after each joke they're like, okay, now I feel this about her and now I feel this. Like, so I think it's learning to look at your whole set as like one coherent entity, and not just like each joke is not like where the audience's meter on you is rising
Right.
and falling.
Okay. I want to ask you something. Yes. What's your joke writing process like?
I mean, I come to stand up from definitely a more writerly brain, in that like I'm always writing down ideas, and then I'm more likely to sort of think them out before I try them out on stage. I know some people kind of talk ideas out just on stage, but yeah, I think for me, I have to sort of figure out where I want to go with it first, and then it might totally evolve on stage and become something else, but I have to have that idea before I go on stage with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you start with like a premise first, or do you start with the punchline and work backwards?
It varies. Like sometimes, especially because I'm write a lot of jokes on Twitter. Like sometimes I'll start with a punchline, work backwards. Sometimes I'll just have a story that happened to me that I'll be like, can I make this into a bit? Or sometimes it'll be more like a topic that I'm like, have some angles on, but not a specific direction for it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And one last thing I wanted to ask you, because I have to know, as a comic,
Yeah.
what was it like being on Conan, and what kind of led you to that? I mean, not obviously led you to that, but like, how did that happen from like start to finish, from the moment you found out to actually being on the show and performing?
I think for me, the booker, so the show is based in LA, and I think I had submitted a set before to them, but then I think it like wasn't there yet. So I think then later the booker saw me at a festival and was like, okay, like he got a tape of my set from that, and then was like, okay, this is a set that I think we could put together for the show. And I think that was like shortly after I did Montreal, so I think that kind of put me on the radar for them. And then like once we had a set that it felt workable, like I got a date, and then we just sort of tweaked it until it was ready. I think it's like a 4.5 minute set, and then you just go and film it, and it's like, you know, earlier in the afternoon because it airs later that day. But yeah, it's kind of a surreal experience. I mean, it was nice for me in that I think one of the guests on my episode was Eric Andre, who's a comedian already, so I knew him. So it was kind of felt like less daunting because he was like, hey, how's it going? And everyone there was really nice. And some of the writers are stand-ups too, so they came by and said like, good luck. And so they try to make it, I think, not as scary as it could be.
Right.
But yeah, when you go out, it's like a live audience, and I think in the end they might tweak the audio a little, but not that much. But for the most part, the audience is like excited to see you, and it's like a fun. They're a little far away, so it's like it can be a little strange as a stand-up because you're used to like immediate response and reaction. But I think you've done the set so many times, like run it in your head and at shows that you're just like, I was a little bit on autopilot, but it was also, I think when it's your first one, you're like, just want to get all the words out in the right order. But yeah, and then like Conan comes over and talks to you, and he actually talks to you like right before too, to be like, thank you for doing it. And like, yeah, I think they do a really good job of making you feel comfortable, and then it goes by really fast, and then yeah, you're just done. But it's amazing. Fun, yeah.
Yeah, no, and you had a great set.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome, yeah. Good luck on your show tonight. I'm sure
Thank
you. But I'm sure it'll be great. I think we'll be there filming a little bit of it tonight.
Cool.
And yeah, have a safe trip back tomorrow.
Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks.